Well, hello and welcome to the Smells Like Money podcast. Join me, Suzanne Chin Taylor, the DooDoo Diva, as I interview guests who are making an impact on how we manage and operate systems for conveying and treating wastewater. As a veteran of the wastewater, trenchless, and civil infrastructure industry, each week I'll be bringing you industry know-how from industry pros who know how. Join me each week as I speak with representatives of organizations that are utilizing disruptive or new technologies and methods, and executives who are excited to share how to be successful and sustainable in our vital industry. So whether you want to learn about the latest trends in technology, in treatment or trenchless, gain tips on training and retaining great talent, or simply how to be more efficient, productive, or profitable, this podcast is for you. Ready? Let's dive right in. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the DooDoo Diva Smells Like Money podcast. Today, we have the great pleasure of visiting with Chad Kalland, the CEO of Vecta Environmental LLC, correct?
Vecta, yep.
All right. And you have offices in, I saw from your website, you operate out of Louisiana as well as Texas. And although he is not quite in the municipal wastewater, he does have some crossover in industrial wastewater and process and tank cleaning, as well as hydro excavation. And so a lot of the principles and the things that Chad and his company do every day is pretty closely aligned to what we do in the wastewater sphere. And so the reason that I wanted to bring Chad on the show today was we are connected on LinkedIn, and he posted a really interesting post that caught my eye. And it's a subject that I feel needs to be talked about. And so I wanted to bring him on to share and have a dialogue about this. And welcome to the show, Chad. And thank you for sharing some time with me out of your very busy schedule.
Oh, thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate you reaching out, and thanks for the opportunity to share my story.
Great. Well, the post was entitled, "It's nothing personal, it's just business." And so many of us, we've heard that expression in our lives of, it's not you, it's me. Or no, don't take it personal. It's just business, seriously. But really, if we think about it, it is personal. Business is personal. And so, Chad, I want you to share with me a little bit about, as you led into that post, was that when someone says something like that, what it tells you, not just about their business, but what that business relationship might wind up being like.
Yeah, so thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate the kind words. Like I shared in that article, I was negotiating the invoice with a customer, and then towards the end of the negotiation, he said those exact words. He said, "Look, this is just business, nothing personal." And to me, it just landed on me. The way I took it anyway was, I care more about this business than I care about the relationship, right? And the relationship is unimportant to me. It's really what at the very root, that's what those words mean to me. Our relationship is not important. The business is important. And that's just not the way that I've been successful in my business, in my career. That's not the way we've been successful at Vecta. We pride ourselves on building personal relationships with our clients. And sometimes that means, we have to do some things that aren't always great for Vecta's bottom line, but it's important to maintain the relationship with the customer, the vendor, stakeholder, whoever. I likened it to phrases, look, I've had a love interest of mine tell me, it's not you, it's me. And when that's said, I know the relationship's over, right? And that's kind of how I felt when I heard the words, it's nothing personal, it's just business.
It makes you feel a little icky in a way, almost like what you were saying, like a breakup. It's almost like a precursor to a breakup.
Yeah.
And so, you were mentioning in that article about in the negotiating, if that hadn't been said, and come into play, how very different maybe the negotiation maybe would have went. And that if you come in with an attitude like that, it could really be a deal breaker. I would think you might take the first deal, but it may make you feel like, okay, I'm just going to get this project done, but I don't want to continue having a relationship with you.
Yeah, or it at least resets the parameters of the relationship, at the very least, because we still provide a good service to this customer. They still are a good client for us, but it certainly resets the parameters of the relationship, to where it does become a more transactional relationship rather than a real relationship that happens to benefit both of us.
And it's interesting because you alluded to in the piece about how this principle can carry over into so many other facets of the business, such
Absolutely.
as your employees, your relationship with your staff, that if you have an employee that's just coming in and punching the clock for the check, you as a business owner, how likely are you going to want to really invest in that person if they come to work with that attitude? And so that kind of struck me as something I'd like to talk about here, coming from an owner perspective, but also as maybe you as a leader, of words of wisdom to someone who is looking to make a career shift. We're all dealing with what they're calling it now, the Great Resignation.
The Great Resignation, yeah.
And so why are people leaving?
I've talked to a lot of people, about a lot of leaders, and it's my belief that people are leaving. They're leaving jobs where they don't feel like that they really belong, or that there's a personal connection to the business. Some of our employees, have left us for more money, and I understand that. And I believe if they felt a personal attachment to our business, they'd be less likely to leave for $1 an hour, right? So it's our job as leaders to engage our employees, to make them feel part of something bigger than just a paycheck, to give them a reason to come to work and want to work for this company, as opposed to, some of our competitors who may offer them an extra $1 an hour. So, it's my belief that when I'm engaged at work, when I'm invested in what I'm doing, I'm a lot more likely to go the extra mile for the company. I'm a lot more likely to do a little extra for my boss. But if I feel, and conversely, if I go to work and I feel like my boss doesn't care about me as a person, then I'm not going to be invested.
Right. So, there was something that you mentioned about the KPI obsession.
Yeah.
And explain to me what you meant by that, and your take on that, because that is a big buzzword, like right now in the industry all over.
Yeah, I think there's what is that phrase? What gets measured gets done.
Right.
Where I think a lot of people focus, and don't get me wrong, the key performance indicators and the data are an important part of understanding how a business is doing. So, understanding your spreadsheets, your financial reports, your key indicators, they're essential to running a good business. But if you only focus on the spreadsheets and lose sight of the personal relationships and the people who are out there doing the work, the people behind the revenue that shows up on your P&L, if you lose sight of that, chances are you're not going to keep.
Right. Well, that makes sense. And it would make sense the same with clients too. Absolutely. If clients see that they're just a number on a spreadsheet, they may just go looking for the lowest price if you don't really treat them well.
Absolutely. So, when we started Vecta, or when I jokingly said, look, we've got spreadsheet problems and we have people problems, and we have we have to fix both. But it's a lot easier to fix the spreadsheet problems if the people problems, if you fix those first. If you do it the other way and try to fix the spreadsheet first, chances are you might not have people to present any more problems. You could lose those people.
And in big corporations, that's not the way that it goes. It's let's fix the numbers first.
Yeah.
And, okay, if we have people left, great, we can always get another one.
Yeah.
It's just that attitude of everybody is, I think you mentioned that in another article where, everybody's replaceable.
Right.
And that's not man, I wouldn't want to go to work feeling that every day.
No. I sat in a meeting one time where one of my former employees said, these people are lucky to have a job and we can replace every one of them. And our customers are doing business with the logo, not the person.
Right.
And I've never believed that to be true. And, at Vecta, we certainly don't believe it to be true. The people are the key to our success. Our people are the key to our success, hands down.
You mentioned 4 things, or actually, 4 things. And it was, and I'd like you to speak to each of these if you would. And it was listen. And this was in relationship to not business or it's just business personal of how you can flip that, where obviously, you have to do good business.
Yeah.
But there has to, how do you strike that balance? And you mentioned 4 key things, and it was listen, acknowledge, be open, and invest.
Yep.
And if you could kind of expand on each one of those.
Yeah. So listen, it's to me, I put listening first because it's often the hardest to do, right? Especially in a negotiation. I came to the negotiation in this specific case. I came to the negotiation feeling I was right. So did they. And I was really invested in getting my point across and letting them know why I thought I was right. Had either of us taken a step back and listened, it may not have gotten to where it did. And a lot of times, just by listening, I can understand really what's underneath the argument, right? And listening to really understand, instead of listening for them to take a breath so I can jump in and tell them my part, right? So listening, I think, is a key to any good relationship. Is probably the most important thing anyone can do, is spend more time listening.
And what did you mean by acknowledge?
Acknowledge is really acknowledge what I'm feeling, right? Because in this instance, I felt I had done a good job for the customer. I was feeling unappreciated. So from that perspective, I didn't acknowledge that. Had I acknowledged that, we probably could have gotten to a deeper conversation. But really acknowledge what's going on with me, why this is important to me, and listen so the other party can do the same, right? So they can and acknowledge what their feelings and what their beliefs are, because I've had a conversation since with the kind of the person who inspired the article, I guess, and he had valid points. So really acknowledging what I'm feeling, what's going on for me at this moment, but also acknowledging what the other party's going through.
I like that. And when you say, obviously, it's important to be open and flexible. And
Yes.
so when you're in a situation like that, where there may be some discomfort, what has worked for you in keeping yourself open to the possibilities?
Yeah. And I think you and I touched on this a little bit before we started recording, in a different aspect. If I'm willing to focus on what the intended outcome is, rather than kind of the ongoing conflict, if we can find something that we can agree on and that the intended outcome is, and be open to how that we may have different paths to get there, right? So I may have to give up my path and walk their path to get there, or maybe there's a third path that we can go to get there. But be open to alternate paths to what we're looking to achieve.
Okay. And the last was invest.
Yeah.
And what did you mean by invest?
Invest means that, for me, and a lot of it is investing in your people and invest time in relationships, right? In my role as CEO, that means sometimes I have to put my work aside, get out of my seat, and go walk around my office and talk to the people in my office just to hear what's going on in their life, right? Um, Taking time out to invite people for lunch or coffee or whatever, just so I can connect with them on a level, a deeper level, so we can both appreciate each other more in a personal relationship. Invested in your customers means really checking on your customers when you don't need it, when you don't have a job going on for them and you're not trying to get one, right? Just to reach out. You know, it's paying in time and energy, making the investment in time and energy, and the payoff is a deeper relationship.
So in just wrapping up on this topic, what would you say if you wanted to give maybe one or two really good golden nuggets or pearls of wisdom in regards to business versus relationship and attitude towards that? What would it be? What has worked the best for you? Because obviously you're very successful at what you do. What has worked for you as a leader?
For me, it's probably the investment part that we just talked about, is really taking time to get to know the people that I work with. The people who work for our organization, but also our suppliers, our clients, people that we interact with in business. Because really that's the whole point for me, to really watch the people who work for us succeed, to be able to help someone else kind of progress in their career. That investment pays off so many times over, that I don't think you could ever put, a price tag on it, or really quantify the value of making that investment.
Wow. I'm just going to throw this out there just because of your work in, ending racism. It's a big thing right now about it's DEI initiatives and companies. I'd really love you to weigh in on this as our closing comment, just because it is coming to the forefront of everybody's mind. And since you've been involved in it for, quite a few years, what could you share on that for companies that know or have an interest in starting to embrace that and making that part of their culture? As someone who's been doing it for quite a while, how can they effectively get started with this?
Okay, I'll tell you a little story on how I've done, for a little over a decade, I've been associated with some anti-racism organizations in Houston and New Orleans and some other places. And then independent of that, I had my career, and I never really they didn't really kind of mesh a whole lot. They were kind of separate in some ways, at least in my mind. And then one day I was walking the trade show floor, and my employee base is primarily people of color. And my competitors are similarly structured. We pull from the same talent pool. And I was walking a trade show floor one day, and I realized that everyone in there looked like me, right? So the thought came to me, so where is the door that keeps everyone else out? Like, what ceiling does everyone hit that they can't make it into this room? The people who are out there doing the work for us every day don't make it into this room, so there's something going on that they're not coming in. So that's when the two came together. And when I realized that, and really started including everyone in our conversations, everyone in our organization has a voice. From an organizational standpoint, it just makes sense. You get people with diverse backgrounds, diverse sets of experience. They come with diverse ideas. So you're really just expanding what your company can do. You're expanding the options that your company may have because you're taking in new perspectives. So from a business standpoint, it just makes sense, right? It makes dollars and cents. From a personal standpoint, I just have a deep-seated belief in the beauty of all humanity, right? And I think that it's just it's just a matter of course that we treat every human being with respect and dignity. And it's just, so from that perspective, I don't see how it couldn't apply to the work I do.
Right, right. Well, Chad, I want to thank you for sharing time with us today and just your personal wisdom on this subject. There are some points here that I think we all need to take to heart, in that and it's especially difficult, I think, as COVID kind of forced us into this virtual environment. And that let us not lose our humanity.
Absolutely.
Let us not lose our ability to connect with each other, that we are not machines.
Right.
That we need to stop being human doings and be human beings.
Absolutely.
Again. Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would invite anybody who is listening today, if you are interested in reading really heartfelt, and I call them juicy golden nuggets of really, I would say, relevant for contracting and the type of hard work that we do in our industry on leadership and approach, connect with Chad on LinkedIn. Even if you don't want to connect, start following him, reading his posts. His posts are absolutely amazing. I kid you not. There is so much value there. They're like 1 or 2 minute reads, but I guarantee you will take away a little nugget that you can start using in your business to change up some things and make the world better, make your business better, make your life better. So really, I encourage you to connect and look him up on LinkedIn, and it's ChadKallan and AND. His name is coming up on the video here, but really connect with him. Look at what his company does, network, because that's what we're all here about in the industry. And I am going to actually bring Chad back. He has agreed to stay with me on the line, and we're going to continue dialogue on another topic that is equally as interesting. So stay tuned for that later on in our season. But until then, again, thank you, Chad, for being here with me on the show. And until next time, keep it flowing. Thanks so much for joining me, the DooDoo Diva, on this week's episode of Smells Like Money. What stood out to you this week? Share your takeaways by leaving me a review. You can find out more about the new technologies, creating sustainable solutions, and insights on how to succeed in our vital industry by subscribing to the show. Whether you want to learn about the latest trends in wastewater infrastructure, treatment, or trenchless, you've got it all right here at Smells Like Money. If you're an industry expert and would like to be considered as a guest for the show, book a quick chat with me by visiting calendly.com/the2it group/B-A-podcast-guest, or simply click the link in the show notes below. Until next week, a big shout out to all my industry friends and those who will be. You are my superheroes. Thanks for tuning in, keeping it flowing, and we'll see you all next week.